I am the senior professor for the University of North Georgia. On behalf of our music department, it is my pleasure to welcome you this evening. First things first, make sure that if you have a cell phone, it's turned to silent, or even better yet, off. There is a QR code that has the program. You're welcome to use that, but since this is a lecture presentation, the titles will be up on the screen while Charlotte is playing, so it should be easy to tell where you are in the program. It has been my pleasure to be Charlotte's major professor for the past 4 years. She's done a wonderful job, and she's a delightful young woman, and just can't say enough good things about her. I will invite you to a light reception that is following the program. It'll be just down this hallway. Once again, thank you for joining us. Please now, I'm sorry, wait a minute. One more protocol thing, yes. In a moment, we will welcome Charlotte to the stage with applause. Then we shall not applaud anything she does until it's all over. We decided that the lecture and the music are all fully integrated, so in between the pieces, just enjoy them, and we'll give her a wonderful, rousing ovation at the end of the program. Now, please welcome to the stage Charlotte Nease.
Dance is one of the defining traits found at the heart of most cultures. It is a way to share history, traditions, and emotions, bringing people together to strengthen the bonds of community. It was highly common for composers from the Baroque to Romantic periods, some examples being Johann Sebastian Bach and Friedrich Chopin, to write music for or to be inspired by different kinds of dances. However, dance continued to play a part in composition well past the Romantic era, as seen in the works of Bela Bartok, Alberto Ginastera, and Dave Brubeck. These composers' overarching compositional processes and overall musicianship were influenced by their backgrounds in dance when writing music both for dance and for concert performance. Although each composer engages in dance differently, Bach, Chopin, Bartok, Ginastera, and Brubeck all use dance as a foundational framework through which they explore structure, rhythm, and cultural expression within their respective musical languages. Bach's Partita in B-flat major is a dance suite, which was a popular form in the late Baroque period. A partita is a multi-movement work consisting of the 4 basic stylized dances, the allemande, courante, sarabande, and the final movement, the gigue. Depending on the suite, there could be several extra dances before the gigue. Partita number 1 has 6 movements, with minuets 1 and 2 placed before the final movement. Published in 1726, Partita number 1 is part of the larger collection of 6 partitas, published as Klavierübung in 1731. Bach intended this collection of keyboard practice to be for the enjoyment of music lovers, professional or amateur. These exercises suggest an experience of development through doing, learning while playing, an activity rather than a chore. Keyboard music was performed often, both socially and privately, but the modern recital format was not invented until Liszt in the mid-19th century. So Bach composed these practices not for the enjoyment of an audience, but for the players themselves. The word minuet comes from both the Italian minuetto and the French minuet, meaning small, pretty, and delicate. These descriptors most likely refer to the small and short steps, or the pas minute taken in the dance. The minuet was a slow, ceremonious, graceful dance that originated in France in the 1660s and became central to the aristocratic court culture under Louis XIV. These Baroque minuets were typically characterized by triple time signatures, either 3/4 or 3/2, moderate tempos, elegant and stately melodies, and complex harmonies and ornamentation. The 18th century minuet was what started every formal ball. The highest ranking or most honored couple would perform the dance first, beginning and ending with formal bows and curtsies, while the rest of the assembly looked on. The minuet step alternated with S patterns, where the couple exchanged places that could be repeated at will. It was a deceitfully difficult dance that, unlike other choreographed ballroom dances of the time, allowed for improvisation and spontaneity at certain steps. Good dancers were encouraged to make figures not align perfectly with the 8-bar sections of the music. Focus, control, and spatial awareness of both the partner and the onlookers were a necessity in order to achieve an air of unaffected ease and nonchalance. Once the most important couple had completed the first minuet, they would separate and each choose another partner. Being asked to dance the minuet was a distinct honor. The fundamental minuet choreography took 6 steps to across 2, 3, 4 bars. For this reason, many melodies written for the minuet were built around common 2-bar phrases. Another characteristic was that the minuet followed a 2-part form, with each part being repeated exactly. The harmonic structures are relatively simple, with the first part often moving to the dominant and the second part back to the tonic. The minuet was one of the simplest and shortest instrumental forms of the early 18th century. Thus, in order to accompany long dances, musicians had to either improvise or bring together several pieces of music. In the late 1600s, the custom was introduced of combining 2 minuets that contrasted in key and content using an ABA pattern. This meant the first minuet would be repeated at the end of the dance performance. Since the second minuet was characterized by a 3-part texture with 2 melody parts and 1 bass part, the name minuet and trio was applied and became prevalent. Minuets were not written with the intention of being danced to. However, they do still follow the pattern of the minuets of the day. These minuets are both in B-flat major and in 3/4 time. Minuet 1 follows the form of 6 steps across 2 bars of music, and this is seen in how each pattern unfolds in 2-bar sections. If one were to dance to this piece, they would typically stay in time with the quarter note, as the 8th note would be much too fast to match pace with. These minuets follow the minuet and trio form of the day. They contain 2 contrasting styles, and the first minuet is played all the way through after the second minuet. Minuet 1 contains a string of continuous 8th notes in 2 sections that take the listener on a harmonic journey. The first section revolves around the home key, B-flat major. The second theme modulates to several places, including the dominant key, F major, and then the relative minor, G minor, until we end up back at B-flat major. Minuet 2 differs in style, taking more time with quarter and half notes, with the performance marking dolce, or sweet. Only a short repeated 16-bar section, it sits happily on B-flat major, just as expected. After its repetition, the performer goes back to the beginning of Minuet 1, playing each section once more without the repeats. These minuets follow the template in every way possible. In terms of repetition, meter, and harmony, they provide an excellent example of what minuets were like in Bach's time. dance that originated in the British Isles and spread to various other European regions, including France, Italy, and Spain. It later became widespread in aristocratic circles of Europe. The difference between these jigs and the true wild and most likely Celtic jigs were that jigs were danced by couples in formal ballet style, and jigs were solo dances in a definite form. Both, however, were fast in tempo and lively in manner. The formal structure of the jig varies slightly depending on the period and compositional style, but it usually exhibits distinctive features that make it recognizable. Speed is one of them, as well as the binary or occasionally ternary form. The jig is often characterized by intricate melodic lines and lively rhythmic movement. Scales, arpeggios, and ornamental figurations are common in the melodic parts, and it most often features compound time signatures such as 6/8 or 9/8. This complexity adds depth and dynamism to the dance. An example of this is seen in the character of the sixth movement of Bach's first partita. The jig is sunny, light, and even joyous. In 6/8 time, it is a rollicking and energetic dance, a sign of its English and Irish heritage. The hands themselves do a sort of jig as well, with the left hand crossing over the right between the bass and treble on every bar. This creates an echo effect, accompanied by the steady right hand underneath. Just like its counterpart, the minuet, this jig follows the template exactly in terms of repetition, harmony, and meter. The mazurka is a Polish folk dance based in triple meter, usually performed at a lively tempo with its character mostly defined by prominent accents on the second or third beat. The word mazurka means a Mazovian woman or girl, a feminine form of the word major, which denoted an inhabitant of Poland's Mazovia region. This dance became popular in the ballrooms and salons of Europe in the 19th century, particularly through the compositions of Friedrich Chopin. The mazurka is most often found with a triplet, trill, dotted eighth note pair, or an ordinary eighth note pair before two quarter notes. Chopin began composing mazurkas in 1824 and continued until his death in 1849. His mazurkas differ from traditional mazurkas in their stylistic characteristics, while with Chopin using chromaticism and folk-influenced scales to create a more technically interesting and harmonically complex type of mazurka. He also tried to compose his mazurkas in such a way that they could not be used for dancing, so as to distance them from their original form. As Jim Sampson argues, Chopin transformed the mazurka into a vehicle of national identity and musical narrative rather than functional dance music. However, he did keep the traditional aspect of repetition, whether it was certain measures, groups of measures, entire sections, or themes. He also made use of more than one style of mazurka. The most common type, the major, is most characteristic due to its inconsistent rhythmic accents. The other two are the slow and melancholic Kurjawiak and the fast Albrecht. Through using all three of these styles, Chopin branched out to create a genre that has ties to the original form, but is also something new and different. Chopin's mazurka in G minor has all of these characteristics. To begin with, the mazurka has two different sections to it, which include three contrasting themes. It is a perfect example of major, with the accents falling inconsistently on either B1, 2, or 3. The first section begins as a Kurjawiak, slow, melancholic, yearning. About halfway through, it changes to the second theme, a dolce, sweet, and lighthearted melody, which is suddenly loud and playful compared to the quiet and somber first theme. After a repetition of the two themes, it transitions into the third theme, a triumphant tune to be played con anima, with spirit, similar to the opera. After a second repetition with slight variation, it slowly transitions back to the first, slower Kurjawiak. The piece also contains several stylistic attributes common in mazurkas, such as dotted eighth notes, which appear in every measure in the third theme. Through repetitions in themes and inconsistent rhythmic accents, despite several variations in theme styles, we see reflections of the traditional Polish folk dance in Chopin's composition. by making it his goal to document the oldest, most rural versions of folk tunes. He believed that folk music was more authentic than the modern music of his day, arguing that contemporary music was made realistic by the fact that half consciously, half intentionally, it searches for impressions from the great reality of folk art, which encompasses everything. A pioneer who paved the way for future ethnomusicologists, Bartók traveled extensively across rural Hungary, Romania, Algeria, and Turkey from 1906 to 1936, transcribing folk songs and dances. Through creating recordings and notations of these folk songs, he was able to shape his own unique compositional style. Bela Bartók's Mikrokosmos consists of 153 progressive piano pieces in 6 volumes, written between 1926 and 1939 and published in 1940. He initially wrote the Mikrokosmos volumes for his son Peter as a progressive pedagogical piano method, and it grew into an intense study of 20th century technical and harmonic styles. These volumes span the complete range of pianistic ability. The first piece in Volume 1 can be taught in the very first lesson, and the technically challenging Volume 6 pieces can be played at an advanced concert. In Volume 6, Bartók compiled 6 dances in Bulgarian rhythms that feature complex, irregular, Balkan-inspired rhythms, where the beats in each bar are of an equal length. For example, in the first dance, number 148, 8th notes are grouped into a pattern of 4 plus 2 plus 3 in every bar, while the final dance, 153, uses groupings of 3 plus 3 plus 2 8th notes in each bar. He named it Mikrokosmos with the intent of characterizing the collection as a small world of varying styles, representing a comprehensive anthology of contemporary piano music. It also encompasses Bartók's musical aim, which was to combine Eastern European folk music, rhythms, and modes into pedagogical exercises. The influence of his extensive travels is clearly seen in his collection of 6 dances in Bulgarian rhythm through their unusual use of tonality and their additive rhythms. Bulgarian folk dances are characterized by their communal chain-link structure, complex asymmetrical rhythms, and deep roots in Thracian, Greek, and Roman rituals. They were traditionally central to village life, connecting communities through shared music during harvest, marriages, and holidays. These folk dances were even tied to ritualistic practices, such as fire dancing, which was primarily practiced in the Stranza mountain region, and featured dancers, nestinari, moving barefoot across live embers to invoke health, fertility, and purification. Most of the dances were chain dances, or poro, where dancers would hold hands, belts, or shoulders in a straight or curved line. The uneven or asymmetric rhythms used in Bulgarian folk music lends to a very unique style of dancing, including limping steps and complex quick footwork. Bartók's third dance, a part of the collection of 6 dances in Bulgarian rhythm, makes use of these uneven additive rhythms with a time signature 5/8. It is a short and fast dance with 2 contrasting characters, quick and light notes that tiptoe across the keys, and then a quarter note dotted quarter note combo in which the 5/8 feels most apparent. The dynamics are not intuitive the same way that they would be in a romantic piece of the mid-19th century, and finding a tonal center seems impossible, forcing the performer to look for patterns elsewhere, until the very end of the piece when Bartók offers the listener some respite in an A major chord. This piece most reflects the Bulgarian dances through its rhythms, as per the title, Dancing Bulgarian Rhythm, as well as in the quick, bouncy feel of the piece as a whole.
collection titled Danzas Argentinas, a set of Argentine dances for solo piano written in 1937 by Alberto Ginastera. He was one of the leading Latin American composers of the 20th century, and this was his first published composition, representing his early nationalist period during which he drew heavily on Argentine folk traditions. Danza de la Moza Danosa is not characterized as a specific dance by name, but it shares a great many similarities with the Argentine dance Zamba. As Deborah Schwartz-Cates notes, Ginastera often abstracted folk materials rather than quoting them directly, transforming national idioms into concert works. Zamba is one of the most emblematic folk dances of Argentina, known for its elegance, storytelling, and profound cultural significance. The name Zamba is thought to come from the term Zambo, a term historically used in Latin American to describe individuals of mixed indigenous and African ancestry. Its rhythms and movements reflect a blend of these influences, creating a uniquely Argentinian expression of identity. Historically, Zamba evolved as a dance of courtship, with partners using a handkerchief as a symbolic element of flirtation and connection. Some common characteristics of the Zamba are that it is typically performed in a meter of 6/8, accompanied by a gentle floating rhythm. It is traditionally played by the guitar, bombo de güero, which is a type of drum, and occasionally the charango, a small Andean string instrument. The movements, along with the melody, are fluid and elegant and evoke a deep sense of nostalgia. The movements also emphasize connection and storytelling rather than physical contact. It is much more than just a dance, and its most important part is its narrative, whether it's about a lost lover, cultural pride, or life in the Argentine countryside.
Que a veces puedo mirar su brillo me recuerdo, su luz me ayuda a pensar cuántas noches de tristeza ella supo consolar. Grita el viento mi nombre.
Danza de la Moza Donosa, or the Dance of the Graceful Maiden, is a piece that most certainly tells a story. Whether it is a story of courtship and love, or a story of grief, of tragedy and loss, Ginastera weaves together pages of deep dissonance and soaring melody that he leaves open to the audience to interpret. Ginastera begins the piece with a rocking, swaying bass, also in 6/8, like the Zamba, and introduces a haunting melody. It isn't until several measures in that the listener gets a taste of the dissonance to come. He continues to build and layer upon his foundation, adding to the melody and increasing the dynamic. This piece has 4 sections and 3 themes, each building off the one that came before, with the third theme being the loudest and most dissonant. The final section brings us back to the first theme, a melancholic, longing melody that gradually grows slower and quieter until fading into nothing. The Zamba is reflected in this piece in the storytelling aspect of the title and the journey through which the melody takes the listener. Both fluid and elegant, this piece spins a narrative that can only be deciphered by those.
War era, the United States started to place a greater emphasis on American cultural identity, leading to the promotion of jazz as a distinctly American art form. Jazz musicians like Dave Brubeck were experimenting with unusual meters, and Square Dance was born through the release of the Dave Brubeck Quartet's album Time Out. While rooted in modern jazz experimentation, it humorously references the rhythmic energy of the American square dance. To give a very brief overview of each genre, jazz is a very complex musical tradition born from the fusion of West African-derived rhythms and genres, like the blues, with European harmonies and a variety of European instruments. Its roots date back to the 19th century to New Orleans Congo Square, where enslaved Africans from a wide array of countries would gather and play music. Over time, the blending of African music and Caribbean music was joined by marching band instruments, which were highly prevalent during the Civil War. This immersion introduced many people to various brass instruments, and united sound eventually formed the genre known as jazz. The influence of New Orleans music, with its rich cultural exchange and ethnic diversity, played a crucial role in the development of jazz. Square dancing is an American folk dance form that involves four couples in a square formation, dancing to a specific sequence or series of steps announced or cued by a caller. The act of dance calling was invented by African Americans and emerged from the Black social dance tradition, which melded with various traditional European dances dating all the way back to the 17th century. There are two primary types of square dance in America, traditional and modern. Traditional square dance is also known as old-time square dancing, or quadrilles. This traditional dance has distinct Western style, as well as regional varieties from New England, the Southeast, and Appalachian part of the country. Modern Western square dance, also known as modern American square dance, evolved from the traditional Western form in the 1970s. Within these two types of square dance, there are numerous regional variations regarding calls and choreography.
Let your hands and circle up the circle to left and you'll be next. Swing your partner high and low. Now promenade with a heel and toe. All four ladies go into the middle and back to the bar and just come in with the right hand star. Now left hand back. Pass your partner, take the next right by your side. Chance swing out of the ladies in. It's once and a half, then you're gone again.
Unsquare dance merges these two genres by taking the rigid structure of American square dancing and combining it with a complex and unsquare jazz rhythm. Traditional square dancing relies on a 4/4 or 2/4 beat, square time. Brubeck decided to use a 7/4 time signature, forcing the dancer or listener to adapt to an off-kilter, constantly shifting rhythm. Additionally, the song is built on a 12-bar blues structure, a staple of jazz, yet played with a distinctive country western feel. Driven by a walking bass line, it mimics the rhythmic, percussive energy of a lively social gathering, or hoedown. It also directly references American folk music traditions, such as the insertion of turkey in the straw into the melody, as well as ending with a musical shave and a haircut phrase. Finally, the percussion and syncopation of the unsquare dance also merges both jazz and square dancing. The percussive section in the middle of the piece is syncopated and largely improvised, and not to jazz. And the stomps and hand claps echo the rhythmic clapping of a square dance, despite it being in complex 7/4 meter. In essence, unsquare dance keeps the energy, rhythm, and rustic feel of a square dance, but uses jazz's polyrhythmic and blues-based complexity to make the structure unsquare. So as before mentioned, I talked about some stomps and hand claps, and as I will be playing the piano, I cannot stomp my feet, not my hands. So I'm going to need some audience participation for this one. So, as before mentioned, this is 7/4, which basically means that there's 7 quarter notes. So I'm going to be playing some of those quarter notes, but I'm going to need you guys to complete the rest. So we're going to break it down and think of it as 2 + 2 + 3 because I can't count that high. So it's going to go ahead and sound like this. Stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap. So we're going to do it all together. 1, 2, ready, and stomp. Okay, that was really great. That's really quick. So we'll do it a couple times. Stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap. And when I go like this, you guys are just going to keep going. And then I'm going to make my way to the piano. And don't stop clapping, whatever siblings get too big, they end up kind of hopping out of the nest and learn to fly by themselves, but the parents are always watching. And we saw the mom come down, kind of give him some food, and he just kept hopping along, trying to fly. And I just was thinking about when I first got to UNG, and I was like, man, I really felt like that fledgling, just kind of hopping around and being like, but there were so many people that helped me learn how to fly. And I first want to say thank you to my Heavenly Father, because without him I wouldn't be here. To Dr. Chapman for countless hours going over lesson time and seeing my potential and pouring so much into me to help me become my own musician. To Dr. Nee and Dr. Lee, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but they have both been just amazing mentors to me throughout these years, pouring into me and helping me grow as well. To my family, who I quite frankly would not be here without them. But just for sharing their time with me and the piano, and for always supporting me and never doubting me, and to all my friends and my family for being here, and last but not least to my fiance Tyler. I am constantly inspired and motivated by you, and you have encouraged me and completely reshaped the way I see music, and I'm forever grateful for that. So just a huge thank you to all of you for coming tonight and for teaching me how to fly. Yay!